And the small and medium businesses problems we face and the problems we face related to foreign workers.
So first we're going to talk about the trade dependence. Lots of countries are now cooperating with each other closely, especially when it comes to trade. As you can see in this chart, countries around the world spend a lot of money on international trade. But why? Because it's beneficial for the both counterparts of the global trade. When they trade, they can import products that they don't have for a more efficient price and a better quality. Also, trade between nations could lead to a form of a strong alliance.
However, when a nation relies on other countries excessively, they will eventually slack off in development of their own nations. In this situation, a minor change in the trade pattern between the counterparts policy could significantly reduce the nation's income of foreign currency. Another consequence of extreme reliance on trade with specific countries is inevitable sacrifice of particular areas. For instance, South Korea's local agriculture market is dying while they are importing cheaper crops from other countries. For the final problem, one country's economic crisis can be degenerated to a global scale issue. In other words, a domino effect could happen. There are several examples such as the Great Depression or Brexit. The fall of the American economy spread to Europe and to all around the world. For the case of Brexit, when Britain pulled out of the EU, not only the European countries but also all around the globe were affected. The global economy's instability getting worse.
So to solve these problems, countries around the world should work together. There are already some international organizations that work in this situation. IMF and WTO are good examples. They work to keep order in international trade and keep the global economy stable. Also, there are some radical ways to solve this problem. Some people suggested that globalization itself was the problem after they experienced the financial crisis. However, anti-globalization will cause more problems than it fixes any. So, the best solution to the problem of the international economy will be to rely on international trade properly, and also government should always think of ways to protect the local economy before expanding the market.
Next, I'm going to be talking about the problems related to jobs. After IMF, Korea's version of the Great Depression happened in 1997. Social polarization has been happening, especially in the case of labor workers. 10 million people, almost 1/5 of Korea's population, are currently under the standard labor contract. This means that their jobs are only temporary. The chances for a worker under the standard labor contract becoming a full-time worker is very unlikely. Job Korea, one of Korea's biggest employment websites, conducted a survey on 708 people who were hired under the standard labor contract. From those who were hired, 45.3% of the people were offered full-time jobs, and 54.7% of the people had to move to a different job, and only 9.8% of these people were offered a full-time job. We found two main solutions to this problem. First is changing the exit strategy into the entrance strategy. Instead of hiring people for temporary employment without a number limit, which is the exit strategy, setting a limit on the number of people that are hired as a temporary employee, which is the entrance strategy, is more effective. And another thing we need is unity between the temporary employees, especially for labor workers. It is needed in order for the minority to make it possible for their voices to be heard. Another problem that Korea is facing in relation with economy is its low birth rate and the increase of the elderly population. Currently, the percentage of people over the age of 65 is 16% in Korea, and it is estimated that it will rise to 30% by 2035 and to 50% by 2065. Korea is stepping into a super age society and is resulting from the advancement in medical technology and the overall rise in the level of economy. But the bigger problem that results from the shape of this population are the jobs. With less people being born, it's harder to find it's harder to find people to work jobs that people between the range of 14 to 65, which is the working age population, to work. People over the age of 65 are struggling to find jobs because of the increase of population, and there is no one that is willing to hire people over the age of 65 to work for them. And the increase of population has made the competition more fierce to find a job.
The rate of birth in South Korea has been constantly decreasing. The birth rate in 2017 is 7.3% lower than the birth rate in 2016. Each household has an average of 1.17 children, which is a great decrease from the 4.53 average of 1970. The low birth rate comes with reasons though. The rise in land prices, lack of jobs, and the rise in bills have made it difficult for people to have children. Like many other countries, South Korea has been trying to come with creative ways for people to have more children. The government has been funding families with small amounts of money to pay for the essential tools to raise children. Also, women are given 120 days off of work after giving birth to a baby as an incentive as well. Artificial intelligence is one factor that could affect Korea's future as well. Although South Korea is not interested in investing large sums of funds to investigate in enhancing the capabilities of robots, last year in 2016, a competition was held between a robot and 4 other people, with the robot becoming the final winner. This event gives some light in the advancement of technology in Korea. However, advancement may not be so great after all. There are articles all over the internet regarding the job replacements by the AI industry. According to one article from CNBC, it says that nearly 50% of jobs could be replaced by robots in the next few decades. Surprisingly, there has already been some job replacements in Japan, and they even expect to see some increase in productivity in the next few decades as well. But this is not the problem. The real problem lies within the money and monopolization of technology itself. China and the United States are the 2 most outgoing nations in the AI industry, and in our future, if we have the robots working as our once robots become our primary workers, all the money will flow towards these 2 nations, monopolizing the global market. By how much, we cannot be exactly sure because of the variations that await us in the future.
And the third problems are the problem of SMEs and unemployed issues. Koreans have a prejudice that large companies sell better products than smaller ones. Because of this stereotype, small and medium-sized enterprises have difficulty increasing the company's capital assets, making it hard to keep their businesses up and running. Also, there is less investment on startup businesses in Korea than other countries such as China or United States. Another problem is that job applicants avoid working in these new businesses because of a misconceptions of treatment while working. People usually think that their salary would be smaller and there would be a longer work time if they get hired by small or medium-sized enterprises. However, these are only misunderstandings, and those 2 factors vary too much to say that working environment is worse or greater than a large corporation. A consequence of this pattern is small and medium-sized businesses entering the debt valley. Between second and 7th year of running on new businesses began to shut down or enter a period of debt. Rather than market profits, the producers spend more than they earn, mostly due to a lack of investment, causing failure. However, after around the 7th year of running a businesses that survived that valley begin to profit once more. But only 30% of the businesses survived the debt valley. Furthermore, people avoid learning master technology for working as a manual laborer, as they prefer to get a better education. This is because there is higher payments for those who received higher education. The charts shows that monthly wages differentiate based on education. Therefore, we have to make an effort to change this system and promote an increase in wages for people who do physical labor.
As we are living through the 4th industrial revolution, it is common for startup businesses to create technological breakthrough. For example, the pioneer of head-mounted display developed virtual reality, which started with a funding campaign. For Korea, startup businesses place sixth in the Korean economy and it is growing continuously. However, there are many problems and how can we solve them? To encourage people to start new businesses, President Moon made a new ministry in the government named SMEs and Startups, which still supporting small businesses with financial support. It is still taking its baby steps, but it promises a brighter future for startup businesses in Korea. Learning from other countries that have made economic advancements can also be helpful. Singapore, also referred to as the post-Silicon Valley, has more than 10 types of government funding programs to support startup businesses. With the help of the Singapore government, Singapore has become one of the best countries for starting businesses. Some startups in Asia are heading to Singapore for a better chance in the market. In the case of China, the wealthy class people have also been supporting the local economy through investing in the startup businesses. Small businesses can enter the stock market quite quickly thanks to abundant investment, especially compared to Korea. For average Korean businesses to enter the stock market, it takes about 12 years, but for China it takes less than 4. Moreover, the red bars show that businesses in Korea are not interested in buying smaller businesses for their innovative ideas, unlike the other nations shown in the graph. This means that Korea could improve their economy through bold investment on new and creative ideas.
Now we'll be talking about the problem of foreign workers. As of now, there are more than 2 million people who are working as foreign workers in Korea. Therefore, their problems, especially the ones related to racism and their rights as human beings and as workers, are problems that are prevalent in Korea. And sorry. Yeah. So the one thing that we need to keep in mind is that we have a prejudice that's taking the jobs of Koreans. However, in fact, the truth is not this. In truth, foreign workers are a crucial part of our economy, and the reason is because foreign workers work in 3D jobs, which many Korean workers tend to not like and not be employed in. And there's actually a job shortage in Korea if we consider the production industry. However, this prejudice is not just a problem in Korea, it is also a problem all around the world, and one famous example is Britain. Britain has opted for Brexit, and one of the reasons is because it is afraid that foreign workers will come to Britain and take all the jobs away from British people who are hardworking and are innocent. However, you can see that racism not only has a negative effect on the victims of racism, but also on the country. There is a phenomenon called the Brexit brain drain. More than 1 million foreign workers are planning to leave the UK in the next 5 years because of Britain and its racist policies, especially regarding Brexit. And there's also a shortage of workers in the food and vegetable industry, which also shows that racism not only has a negative effect on the foreign workers, but also on the country itself. This has also been a problem for us in our past. After the Korean War, many Korean men and women worked in foreign countries such as the USA, West Germany, and Saudi Arabia. And they were subject to just the same kind of racism and the same kind of discrimination that we are discriminating and are being perpetrators of today. We need to make sure that we cut this vicious cycle and make sure that we do not victimize more people. And the failure to recognize the Korean dream can be divided into 2 parts. First, economic welfare. Cheating brokers. Brokers take a ridiculous amount of money from people who want to move to Korea and work there, and they do not follow up with the necessary paperwork. Therefore, foreign workers have no choice but to work in Korea with bad jobs because they cannot return to their country because they have no money. They also get less wages than current foreign workers, and Korean workers, and they also live in poor living conditions. And from the point of view of human rights, they are also subject to racism. They work in unstable and dangerous workplaces, and they are subject to sexual harassment and assault. And this changing conditions for foreign workers has to be changed in 2 ways. First, education, and second, legislation. First, we need to work on increasing the sensitivity against other races in education and legislation. We need to change the rules that only empower the employer and not the employees.
So, what can we do in general? First, with the development of technology, it has become much easier to spread the awareness of social problems to the younger generations. Teenagers spending their time on social media can easily come across posts that can teach them the seriousness of the economical issues that we face. Also, we can raise our voice in power of numbers and attract attention of the media. Last but not least, education is an essential point. Educating the upcoming generation with the economical problems that we faced in the past and in the present will prevent the same mistake to happen in the future.
A specific example of a thing that teenagers can do to solve this economic problem in Korea is Facebook. We have created a page that promotes Korean traditional markets, and this page shows is going to increase the independence of Korean economy because traditional markets produce their own goods and sell their own goods, and this self-dependent traditional market has its problems because it is not promoted enough. Not many people know about when it is open, where it is, and because they have no information about it, they do not choose to go to traditional markets. Therefore, we decided to make a page that promotes such things, and it's also something that teenagers can easily do.
Thank you.